Well, what's up, Boise State fans? It is almost 1 o'clock in the morning here, so we'll see if anybody jumps in live. If not, you're watching this on delay on Saturday when you wake up, and mixed emotions when you wake up on this one on a Saturday. And quick thanks to rowpaint.com, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics. Ridley's Family Markets as well, 12 Idaho locations. You can get more information, shopridleys.com. He's Mike Prater, KTIK Radio, Idaho Press sports columnist. BJ Rains with you as well. Here from the press box at Albertsons Stadium, where an interesting game. Like I said, Mike, they get the win 23-13. They were covering the spread until the final 4 seconds, but overall, just kind of a weird game. You know, at this point, you're not trying to get style points if you're Boise State. You just need to win these last 3 games however you can. So they did accomplish the mission from that standpoint, but overall, not a super impressive win.
No, but I don't understand why Bronco Nation, I just got done doing 90 minutes of postgame, talking to fans, talking to listeners, and I'm not quite sure what they expected. One, Wyoming always plays a football game like this. Boise State, Wyoming historically play these kinds of football games, 17-10, 19-17 in overtime. Look at the last 5 scores against Wyoming and Boise State. This is a typical Boise State, Wyoming football game. And also at this point, I think we have to realize that this is what Boise State's football team is. Not defensively, because the defense looks like it's pretty elite. The offense, it's not going to be your Dan Hawkins, Chris Peterson, Kellen Moore score 40-plus points a game. They're averaging barely 30 points a game. Tonight they got 23. Yes, they're kicking way too many field goals and settling for far too less touchdowns. There are some issues with this football team, but I think at this point, this football team is what it is. And I didn't expect really anything different than tonight. An ugly game because of Wyoming's defense and because of Boise State's offense, and that's exactly what we got, BJ.
What was the pulse of Bronco Nation? I know you said you had to cut people off for cussing. They were drinking too much, I guess.
Yes.
They were out of alcohol here at the bar, But again, I know people want the days of winning 50-3 or whatever every game just aren't going to happen. And you were a 14-point favorite, and you've lost 3 in a row at home. And I know they won the game. And like I said, I mean, you're not Cincinnati. You're not trying to impress pollsters at this point. You just need to win your last 3 games. Hope tomorrow that Utah State loses to San Jose, and hope you sneak into the conference championship game, and you even have a chance of still hosting in here, which maybe isn't a good thing based on how they've played here. But I don't know. What was kind of was it still frustration at Tim Plow, or where was the post-game fan reaction in this one? And if you're watching this, by the way, let us know with your comments here what you thought of this game.
Yeah, I'd like to know what other people are thinking, especially as we're getting later into the night when people are drinking. I'd like to know exactly what they're thinking. A lot of the phone calls were about Tim Plow. And Tim Plow is under attack from Bronco Nation because he's not Kellen Moore, because he's not Chris Peterson. Heck, he's not even Brian Harsin, according to these guys. At least Brian Harsin could score some points at certain times. This offense is not going to be that way. We had people calling up and saying that the Blameyer football complex was vandalized this week with graffiti because everybody wants Jack Sears, and it said start Jack Sears and bench Hank Bachmeier. I think that guy was drunk and stumbling up on the Boise River somewhere. I get that Tim Plow's offense can be frustrating. I really get it, but I think it's improving. Maybe not fast enough for you guys, but I think it's improving. George Jelani, a run game for the last 2 straight weeks. Hank Bachmeier has thrown 1 interception in the last 4 games, over like 156, 165 passes. You do the math tomorrow morning when we wake up. So I think he's doing better. Boise State played tonight without Octavius Evans and Steph Cobbs, 2 of their main stars at wide receiver. I think they need to get the ball to Shaq a little bit more. I'd like to see maybe a little bit more George Jelani in the second half to put this sucker away. But I think that this offense is getting better. Yeah, there's curiosities, and we're going to continue to explore those curiosities. But this offense is getting better, and it's okay if you're scoring 23 points a game when the defense is elite, as Boise State is.
Yeah, George Jelani, second straight 100-yard game, right? He goes for 102 yards. Andrew Van Buren actually scored what ended up being a huge touchdown on his only carry of the game. But Boise State rushes for, 160 yards, passed for 225. And, yeah, I mean, Hank Bachmeier wasn't, amazing throwing it all over the field, but he took care of the ball, like you said. And, Wyoming does have a pretty good pass defense, one of the better ones in the league. So they took what they got, and they did, but they didn't, there was a 4th down early in the game that they didn't get. Then they got the ball down, to a 4th and 2 later, and they were kind of scared and decided to kick it. I would have gone for it again, but 3 field goals for Jonah Dalmas again. And, Hank Bachmeier said after the game that he loves Jonah Dalmas, but he just, doesn't love seeing him on the field so much because twice, again, they were in the red zone and had to settle for field goals. But I mean, Hank Bachmeier said, "Hey, Wyoming, this is what Wyoming is. They're tough. They make it difficult on you. There's not a lot of, even Fresno State, it was like a 17-0 game against Wyoming. I mean, they just play these kind of tough, grinded out type of games. And so, Hank, Andy Avalos got a little frustrated when I asked, how are you? Because it didn't sound like he was too happy. And I don't know how he was on the postgame radio. If you heard that, he kept saying all these, we got to do better at this, better at this. So I said, well, how do you feel leaving here? Because you sounds like you're not that happy, but you did accomplish your goal. And he kind of snapped back. Well, they're not all going to be perfect, BJ. I mean, they're not, but it's just a weird feeling because you don't feel super great about the game going into next week against Wyoming, another team you should kill. But New Mexico. This was Wyoming, but again, it is 1 a.m. But again, there's only 2 games left. So at this point, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, you should be able to beat a New Mexico team that's going to kind of ugly things up like Wyoming did tonight. And then we know San Diego State's not going to blow anybody away with their offense. So Bronco Nation, get used to it. I think you're looking at a couple of defensive slugfests over the next couple of weeks. I guess Boise State could explode for some points against New Mexico, but look what the Lobos are doing. They're playing pretty decent defense. So at this point, as long as Hank Bachmeier, and I think it's become painfully clear, at least to me, and I'm certainly no student or scientist of the game, but it's become painfully clear to me that Hank Bachmeier is really, really good when he throws the ball in the middle. He's really, really good when he's asked to take care of this offense. And he's gotten really smart about taking care of the football and taking care of himself. But when he has to throw sideline to sideline or a deep pass, and he had one tonight to Khalil Shakir, it just didn't go well. I don't think that this team can stretch anybody's defense. I don't think they can have a vertical passing game. And Tim Plow talked about this past week. That's not Hank Bachmeier. He doesn't have the biggest of arms, and I don't think that they're asking him to go deep. And until they do, they're just going to have to plod their way down the field 3 or 4 or 5 yards at a time, a couple of games here, a couple of things there. And as long as you're clean, and Boise State had very few penalties. I think they had 4 or 5 penalties. They had no turnovers whatsoever. They won the third down battle. They had 22 first downs. They outran them in terms of plays, 70-47. All across the board, it looked good. If they could just figure out how to clean up and maybe intensify the red zone offense, I think this offense is actually pretty decent.
And it was a weird game because you felt like in the first half they were dominating, and then all of a sudden it's a tie game, and it was a big field goal for them to go up 10-7 at halftime. You mentioned not having Evans or Shakir. I thought Billy Bowens, 4 catches for 36 yards, had a big third down catch. You had Davis Cutter had 2 catches for 17 yards. Latrell Caples had a carry and also had a 15-yard reception. So you saw some other receivers get in there and have to make some plays, and we don't know the long-term prognosis on those guys. But when you're without Evans and Shakir, or Evans and Cobbs, and don't forget C.T. Thomas, booted from the team a couple weeks ago.
That's right.
3 of your top 4 receivers going into the year, at least up until 3-4 weeks ago, didn't even play. So I thought they did what they had to do, and again, Wyoming's not a total pushover in terms of defensively. They do some things, and but again, overall, I thought one of the key plays of the game was on the defensive side. We mentioned almost pitched another shutout, almost won another half without no points in the second half, which has been a storyline this year, how good they are in the second half, and that 74-yard pass with 4 seconds left. But I thought the key play was Dimitri Washington. First career interception, first interception of his life. Didn't have one in Pee Wee, didn't have one in high school. Never in Dimitri Washington's life had he ever had an interception, he told us after the game. And that's my notebook that you can find and read his comments at blueturfsports.com. But Dimitri Washington, you kept it, Boise State wasn't getting anything going in the second half. And all of a sudden you look up early in the fourth quarter, Mike, Wyoming has the ball and they're only down 13-7. They've got a chance to take the lead in this game in the fourth quarter. They had the ball with a chance to take the lead, and they had picked up a first down. And they're moving towards midfield, and you're going, is there any possible way they're going to let them hang around and score here and win this game? Again, 4 in a row on the blue, but Dimitri Washington, the huge interception, did go out of bounds at the 13-yard line, but then you had Andrew Van Buren punch it in, and they got a little separation.
I think this coaching staff, if I have one thing to nitpick about the coaching staff, the offense, Tim Plow, it might be Cyrus Abibi-Likio. Everybody loves this guy. He's a leader. And don't forget, he came over here from Oregon, as did Andy Avalos, and about 10, 12 people on this football staff, weight room, support staff. A lot of people came over from Oregon, and everybody loves Cyrus Abibi-Likio, who pretty much gave up a year of his life just to come here and play football and to create one more season of football. And I think this coaching staff loves him so much that they use him too much. And maybe it's because they're trying to protect George Holani, who was almost non-existent in the second half. He wasn't on a pitch count, I don't think, but maybe in the second half they said, we don't need him. Let's rely on Cyrus Habibi-Likio. The difference between CHL and George Holani to me is night and day. And they used Cyrus Habibi-Likio too much in the second half when I wanted to see more George Holani. And I think that's a difference.
Well, even in the first half, there was a couple drives where Holani would carry the ball 5 out of 6 plays or something and get him down the field, and then they'd be in a 3rd and short and 4th and short, and he's not even on the field.
I don't like that. I need to see George Holani, unless they tell us that they're being very, very careful about him, a pseudo pitch count, however you want to do it. I need to see George Holani in a game like tonight with 30 plus. I miss Alexander Madison, and sometimes they abuse the crap out of Alexander Madison to the point where it was uncomfortable. But now I feel like they don't use George Holani enough to the point where it's uncomfortable, BJ.
One of the storylines, Tracy has a comment here. Boise's bowl eligible now. Great game. The staff and team are starting to click. It is 3 games in a row. Let's remember that. I mean, think about where this team was 3 weeks ago in terms of the division race and a bowl game. I mean, nothing looked really possible. And I do think the Fresno win kind of changed the trajectory of the season a little bit. But you win this one, you get to 6 wins, and nothing's guaranteed. But I would assume a 6-6 Boise State team is probably safe to get a bowl over a 6-6 Sun Belt team or something. They'll find a spot, I would think, for them. But 24 straight years, you have to be careful with your wording now, because last year they opted out of the bowl. But 24 straight years they've now been eligible. Because there was another year, right, in the early 2000s where they didn't
2001,
they didn't get picked or something either. So 24 years in a row, they're eligible for a bowl. Probably, almost certain we'll be going to a bowl game, especially, lock that up next week when you play Wyoming. But
New Mexico.
Why do I keep saying
saying New Mexico?
It really has been a long day. And no, it's been a tough year, as Hank Bachmeier said, for them. It hasn't gone well. 6-4 certainly is not where they want to be at this point. But with 2 weeks left, they've now qualified for a bowl, and there's still a realistic path for this team to get back to the title game.
Boise State tomorrow is desperately rooting for San Jose State to beat Utah State. It's also rooting for San Diego State to beat Nevada. That's the thing that's the trifecta that should make Bronco Nation happy this weekend. And we'll go into next weekend. I know there's still a couple of weekends to be played, a lot of tiebreaker scenarios that we would drive you crazy with, or myself crazy with, in the middle of the night talking about it. So, but that's what you need tomorrow night. You want San Jose State, you want San Diego State to win. That's the perfect weekend for Boise State, and then we'll see what happens. But I just think it's really crazy that there's so much pent-up confusion and frustration with this offense. And Boise State and Bronco Nation is missing the point with what they – I think this defense is so elite, and I don't understand why people are not talking about this defense. You talked about the second half. 5 of the 10 games so far, they haven't given up any points in the second half. In 2 of those games,
final minute or something,
a couple of trash touchdowns. So they've dominated the second half in at least 7 of their 10 games. This defense is elite. They're 5th in the country right now in takeaways. I think they're at 21 takeaways.
Yep.
So they're taking care of business there. Not a monster amount of takeaways tonight, but the defense held steady, and they did their job. Boise State's going to beat every single game they play because of this defense, and let's just let the offense do what it has to do to win football games.
Well, I mean, final thoughts here, Mike. I mean, they as I said, it wasn't pretty tonight, and they did what they had to do, and they lived to fight another day. I mean, at this point, you are kind of just surviving advance. Just win, keep yourself alive, and as you said, tomorrow night, the more important one is Utah State, because they just need them to lose once in their final 3 games, and this is by far their toughest game left. They're actually like a 4-point underdog to San Jose tomorrow. So that'll be at 8:30. That is on, I think that's the one on CBS Sports Network. The other game is at the same time on Fox Sports 1, and that game would help potentially allow Boise State to host the championship game here, because Boise State holds the tiebreaker over both Fresno and San Diego, or would be San Diego State if they beat them in the last game. A lot, but the main thing is, you need Utah State to lose one more game. We'll worry about all the other scenarios later. But again, it wasn't perfect. But they, I guess survive in advance really is all that matters at this point.
Boise State's getting better. They're getting better. Their defense is holding steady and getting slightly better. And I think the offense is taking steps that we can see physically. And I really see this team getting better. The offensive line has been together. No more negative plays. No more bad snaps. I think that this offense is going to be good. It's never going to be elite. Get used to it now, guys. They're not going to score 45 points a game. I know Fresno State, they had 40. Maybe they'll surprise us down the road. But I think the next couple of games are going to be just defensive nightmares. Boise State's just doing what it has to do to win, and I think that that's okay.
And those games are at 8:30, but 7 o'clock first for Boise State fans will be Boise State basketball. They're playing UC Irvine. That'll be on ESPN+. Sneaky tough game for them. So if you're a Boise State fan, which I'm sure you are if you're watching this, you got basketball at 7. Then when that ends at 9, flip over. You'll be still in the first quarter of those football games. So enjoy your Saturday. I love the Friday night games, Mike, as much as it shortens up the week a little bit. We do get Saturday and Sunday, and especially at home when there's no travel back or anything. So hope fans enjoy their weekend. And then Monday you can listen 3 o'clock, Prater in the ball game, 3 to 6 weekdays, 93.1 FM, 1350 AM. And they'll have the full recap again, I guess, after a couple of days off to relax. And Bronco game night, I know you're posting. I cannot wait to listen on my drive home here. So you can go on the podcast, which is what I do, or the website, KTIK.com, and relive Bronco game night if you missed that as well. So, Mike, always appreciate the time. And again, wasn't overly pretty, but Boise State did what they needed to do. So appreciate the time, sir.
No problem. I got a column in the Idaho Press on Sunday. We got you next Friday on Idaho Sports Talk.
What are you writing about?
I got a couple of ideas. I may talk about a little Hank Bachmeier in this offense. I find the give and take between the fans in this offense to be fascinating right now. So we're going to dive into that a little bit.
There you go. That'll be Sunday's paper online, probably Saturday evening at the Idaho Press, BlueTurfSports.com. Boise State wins at 23-13. The Aaron Rodgers, RELAX, relax, Boise State fans. You won. You're still alive for the division race with 2 games left. Enjoy an extra cold one this weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.